She said, make sure you give Jeffrey what he wants because Jeffrey always gets what he wants.
The job opportunity of a lifetime that turned into a nightmare.
Each of those women had very successfully, very masterfully manipulated me and groomed me into thinking that it was a safe and healthy environment for me to go to.
Today I sit down with Teresa Helm. At 22, she was an eager student attending massage therapy school when she was invited to apply as a traveling massage therapist for Ghislaine Maxwell.
It's been nearly 2 decades of replaying this in my mind.
Now she's an advocate for survivors of sexual assault and trafficking. This is American Thought Leaders, and I'm Yanya Kellick. Teresa Helm, such a pleasure to have you on American Thought Leaders.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Teresa, well, let's just start with your story. How you've gotten to this point in time.
Yes, so my story started long ago when I was a young adult, 22 years old, and I'm originally from Ohio, and I was living in Ohio in massage therapy school at the time, and I had a visit to California, and I thought that that's where I wanted to be, so I switched schools and made the change from Ohio to California, and there was a student, a fellow student, that was a bit further along in the program as me. However, I knew her through interacting more or less through client files as she was in the clinical portion of her training. So this girl, she approached me one day about an opportunity to be a traveling private massage therapist. And I was interested right off the bat. You know, it sounded like a wonderful opportunity, although I needed to learn more about it. So she gave me contact information to another girl. For me, being 22 years old, I'm going to meet this other young girl similar in age, and I'm thinking I'm meeting her at her apartment on the beach, and that was really incredible for me. That's very inspirational because, of course, you want to be, at least in my case, I wanted to be as close to the beach as possible. And that was part of the dreams, and she gave me the name Miss Maxwell.
Everything you described, right, it doesn't seem like there was almost any reason why you should have been suspicious, right? Or were there signs? I mean, you mentioned there were a few moments where you asked yourself a question, but this is something obviously that these days you go out, you talk about, you're educating young women and men about all of this, how this all functions. But
yeah.
How would you notice that this is really what's happening in a situation like this?
It is difficult at times, and you're right. There were instances, Ghislaine telling me, make sure he gets what he wants. Jeffrey always gets what he wants. I think, okay, he's had a lot of professional massage because of who he is. He's successful. They travel the world. He's had a lot of massage. Anytime I questioned anything, I normalized it instantly to what I thought I was there for. So there was never a time that I thought that I was there for anything else. There was never a time that I thought that I was in any danger, and I did find it to be safe. And what I can say to those now, as far as if they may be experiencing something, is, and I understand it can be difficult, but when you do have those questions that rise within you, the best thing that you can do is to share those thoughts or those feelings with someone that you trust and get their idea or their take or feel on the situation. And so I really encourage children and teens and anyone really to be able to identify at least one trusted adult in their life that they can share those things with. And
a number of the victims, including yourself, you did have a chance to take the stand. Was that, I guess, helpful? Was it at all? Was there any kind of consolation there?
I spoke in the federal court to Judge Berman as I was invited, along with other survivors. We were all invited to speak if we wanted to. The most recent trial, I did not speak at. I was there, but I did not go on on trial. However, speaking in the federal court to Judge Berman, it's the first time I had come forward publicly about it. And, going into the room, I didn't know if I was going to speak. I decided I was going to speak. I didn't know if I was going to use my name. I decided to use my name. And it was part of the process to get me to where I'm at now. Because going back to learning who they were, on that Thursday, that next day, Friday, before I spoke to the FBI, I'm thinking, what do I do? I can't just sit with this information anymore. I can't just continue to suffer in this silence anymore. And getting a glimpse of my daughter's car seat in the car from my rearview mirror is where I was like, this is it. I am not going to continue this silence anymore because I've worked very hard to get to where I'm at. I have, values that I'm teaching my own children, and I've got to live those values and set this example.
I want to ask you something that might be a bit of a difficult question. At some point, I'm sure you realized, if you hadn't run away that day, 20 years ago, that you would have been in this sort of life.
That's right. It could have gone that way. And that just possibility has been hard for me to sit with myself and think about. The honest to goodness truth is there was still this part of me after everything that I had gone through, that wished I could have just looked past it and still got to do everything that I wanted to do. I still got to be the traveling massage therapist. Like, I still had a part of me for a long time that still wanted that, what I went there for. I still wanted it. And that was another part of that, just added to the shame of the situation. And it was still another part, it was a part within me that I had to really sort through. All those feelings that came along with it, because I felt like, what's wrong with me for feeling this way? What's wrong with me for feeling like I still kind of want that job? And I think that that certainly goes to show the level of manipulation that I experienced. And that's their end game. That's their goal. That's their goal.
This one organization that you're working with right now has, made a kind of breakthrough, and this is why we were talking about Texas.
Yes.
By getting this legislation enacting about no trafficking zones
Yes.
in schools to stop this. Again, when I first heard about the legislation, I just have to underscore this, I didn't get what it was for entirely. I didn't get. It's hard to fathom that this could be happening in schools to the point
Right.
where legislation is required
Yeah.
to disincentivize these people, right, from doing this.
Right. So in the state of Texas, there's been a recent bipartisan supported bill passed, the No Trafficking Zone Act. And it states that if a trafficker tries to target a child or a teen on school grounds or within 600 feet of the premises of school functions, for the purposes of, trafficking, it's a first-degree felony charge. That's an incredible win. That's an incredible bill and legislation victory for sure. And that's the standard. That's what it should be. These should be fundamental standards.